It's hard to believe that we've already reached the finale of the latest season of Doctor Who. It seems like only yesterday that we were looking at talking babies in space and some bootleg Beatles. But now's the time to bring this chapter to a close. A classic villain from the Doctor's past has returned in dramatic fashion, and he's currently inflicting death and destruction upon the entire universe, which just simply won't do. Will the Doctor and Ruby be able to defeat a literal god of death? And will we finally get some answers for all those long-standing questions? Well, let's take a look. So, in The Legend of Ruby Sunday, we finally discovered the identity of the mysterious woman who has been appearing with the Doctor and Ruby all throughout this season's adventures, and even before then. And it turns out that Susan Triad, played by Susan Twist, and her Theresa May-inspired dancing has been nothing more than a pawn all along. In fact, S Triad was such an all too obvious anagram of TARDIS that it was dealt with in the first couple of minutes, with everybody standing around essentially saying to the viewer, well, yeah, obviously. Classic companion Mel, played by Bonnie Langford, had far more to do here than she did when she returned for the 60th anniversary, and having her undercover in the Triad Technology Company was a clever way of illustrating how UNIT utilises the Doctor's former companions once their travels with the Time Lord have ended. Although the fact that Rose, played by a returning Yasmin Finney, and boy genius Maurice Gibbons, played by Lenny Rush, were working for UNIT, does raise some serious fundamental questions about child labour laws in the Whoniverse. Having an old VHS videocassette tape as the vital bit of tech to drive the plot forward was a lovely nod to the series' own wilderness years, even if the time window then being able to extrapolate a 3D hologram environment from the tape was basically, well, it's just like the holodeck from Star Trek, isn't it? Recent episodes of Doctor Who have seen the TARDIS behaving rather strangely and making odd groaning sounds. In The Devil's Cord, Ruby assumed that the noise was a result of the Doctor freeing his ship from the Maestro's control, but the Time Lord said that no, something else is responsible. Now, to be honest, I feel that the TARDIS making these noises was something that should have been happening a little more often throughout the series. I mean, we've kept having Susan Twist making a cameo appearance in virtually every episode. I felt that in addition to that, we should have had more TARDIS moaning going off in order to better build up to this dramatic reveal. And what exactly is this dramatic reveal? Well, it's discovered that the immortal god of death, Sutekh, has been secretly hiding on board the TARDIS ever since he was last defeated by Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor way back in 1975. And it looks like the 49 years or so that Sutekh has been a secret stowaway on board the Doctor's marvellous machine has given him quite the upgrade in terms of appearance. Now, is this Sutekh's true form, or the result of travelling through countless time streams? We don't know, because that's never explained, something that becomes all too regular in this two-part finale. Thankfully, Gabriel Wolfe has returned to the show, now at the age of 91, to provide his silky smooth yet menacingly evil voice once again for the God of Death. But who is Sutekh? Well, let me explain. In the 1975 serial Pyramids of Mars, the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith first encountered a race of godlike beings who were worshipped by many cultures across the universe, including on Earth, in ancient Egypt, and on Mars, which is where the final confrontation took place. The Doctor was able to extend the terminus of the time tunnel down which Sutekh was travelling into the far future, which resulted in the God of Death apparently meeting his own demise, appearing to age rapidly and eventually perish, with the Doctor suggesting that he may have lived for as long as 7,000 years before meeting his demise. Now, that was the idea, but no, he's apparently been hiding on board the TARDIS ever since. I presume that this was supposed to be an epic reveal, but it just felt a little awkward. Are you telling me, seriously, that all this time, neither the TARDIS nor the Doctor was able to detect that there was an alien god hitchhiking on all its adventures? And of course, all this is going to do is make Whovians go back over previous episodes now and question the likelihood of Sutekh being there. Are you telling me that he was here when Captain Jack was also holding onto the TARDIS? What about in the following episode from that when the TARDIS was getting dipped in hot lava? How did the Weeping Angels move if they were being watched by Sutekh? Just saying. And where was Sutekh when the Doctor and River Song were living together for several years? Where was Sutekh when Amy and Rory were going at it like a pair of rabbits on the TARDIS? Ew. It's certainly turned into a bit of a meme, where Whovians have been reimagining scenes from across Doctor Who history with Sutekh now added into them, and not in a way that paints the show in a good way, more in a way that makes the show look a little, well, ridiculous, if we're being honest. And further to that, with all the misdirection over whether or not Susan Triad would turn out to be the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan Foreman, it is easy to forget then that Mrs. Flood is upstairs with Cherry Sunday and being all menacingly weird. I mean, she couldn't be, could she? There's a storm coming in, says Flood, delivering one of her now trademark looks to the camera. He waits no more. Now, who exactly Mrs. Flood is, how she apparently has the ability to bend reality, and how she knows about the threat posed by Sutekh still remains unclear. And then as we come into the second episode of this two-part finale, Empire of Death, Sutekh and his minions are killing everyone around them with his sand of death, his dust of death, whatever you like. Kate Lethbridge-Stewart calls the Doctor to say goodbye right before she dies, but it's pretty hard to believe that that's really the last we've seen of her. One by one, all the other supporting characters from this season also meet their likely temporary, crumbly end. Blimey, it's getting a bit like Avengers Infinity War around here, isn't it? Also, Morris has guns in his Segway, because why the hell not? The Doctor, Ruby and Mel end up hiding and eventually escaping in a second TARDIS that has been built entirely from memories in Unit's time window. If you haven't already seen this composite TARDIS, which entirely consists of parts from other versions of the famous blue box, it's a classic fan's treat. The interior is literally crammed with souvenirs and references from the Time Lord's previous incarnations, and it's surprisingly moving to see Mel getting all choked up when she finds the infamous rainbow coat that belonged to Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor, or seeing her snuggle up to the question mark jumper that Sylvester McCoy's Seventh Doctor wore. I am going to have to go back to this scene at one point and pause it at several times to look at all the various Easter eggs and references in this. And there is even a clip from Pyramids of Mars which helped to provide more background about what happened to Sutekh the last time he met the Doctor. And of course we have to grin at any sight of the wonderful, legendary pairing of the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. Seriously though, do go back and watch this classic episode. They're all on the BBC iPlayer after all, so you've got no excuse, frankly. Anyway, the whole thing feels a little convoluted and rushed, but long story short, none of the Susans were the Doctor's granddaughter, and everywhere in time and space that the Doctor has travelled to, Sutekh has created essentially another clone of Susan Triad, which is now spreading his dust of death. Basically, everywhere that the Doctor has visited across time and space since Pyramid of Mars is now either dead or dying. And this might have had more impact if they'd had a little more time to explain the story. However, the clock is ticking. With most of the universe now dying at Sutekh's hand, the Doctor, Ruby and Mel are still managing to survive in the memory TARDIS, because Sutekh is also puzzled by the story of Ruby's mother. This sets the stake even higher for that reveal, but oh boy, we'll come back to that in a bit. The Doctor eventually meets a mystery woman on a random planet who has something that he desperately needs, i.e. it's a spoon. He's saving the universe with a spoon again. She seems to be the last survivor, well, anywhere, quite frankly. However, she's lost all memory of her life apart from whether or not she actually had a baby or not. Apart from what she gives the Doctor, i.e. the spoon, she doesn't have much to add to the story apart from showing the impact of Sutekh's death wave, if you like. Opinions may vary about whether any of this scene was actually needed. The group eventually figures out a way to determine Ruby's mum's identity, but their plans get thrown off course due to Mel slowly becoming possessed by Sutekh. But the Doctor and Ruby finally find a way to defeat the God of Death by, taking him out for walkies? Sutekh, the all-powerful God of Death, defeated by a dog lead. Again, the whole thing feels rushed. And how exactly is dragging Sutekh through the time stream going to lead to his demise when he's already spent nearly 50 years doing the same thing, being moved along the time stream? Again, there's no time to explain any of this. It's just, I bring death to death, and it's like, yeah, but how? Again, no time to explain any of this. All you need to know is that the universe is saved once again. Phew. As everyone comes back, we finally get an idea about Mrs. Flood's identity when she refers to the Doctor as a clever boy. However, it looks like we will have to wait longer for a definitive answer about this mystery woman. And also, despite the fact that it's only been about 2 minutes since the entire human race has been resurrected from Sutekh's dust of death, Domino's have had their staff right back to the ovens, and Uber Eats were bringing pizza to Unit HQ. Also, everyone's drinking tea. I mean, how British is that? The world nearly ended, and the first response is to put the kettle on. Good old cup of tea, right? It solves everything. Now, we get to the moment that everyone has been waiting for, an answer to the question of Ruby's mum's identity. Now, I really like the character of Ruby. I think she's fantastic, she's got an infectious energy, and I wanted nothing more than the best for her, and I'm very happy that here we finally get to see her get those answers, and she finally gets that happy ending. However, for the audience, it feels like a cop-out. It doesn't really answer any questions about Ruby's hidden secret powers or why it kept snowing this season. We believe that Ruby was important because the writers literally told us she was important. We believe that Ruby's mother was also going to be important because the writers had told us that Ruby's mother will be important. So for them to then say, nah, she was only important because you thought she was important, was pretty cheap and condescending. And Ruby's vague superhuman snow and music powers literally makes no sense now, especially if you go back and watch over this season again. Also, Ruby's mum, when she abandoned Ruby, she was a 15-year-old girl who had very recently just had a baby. She would have been absolutely heartbroken and terrified at the time she left her child at the church. I don't really think she's going to be dressing up in a black hooded cloak, acting woo, all spooky and mysterious, and then spending some time to look for security cameras so she could walk away, stand, and dramatically point at a signpost to name Ruby. Why was she even pointing at a signpost anyway? There's nobody there to see her or to know that that was her intention. Also, let's go all the way back to last year's Christmas special, shall we? Which I still need to review on this channel, by the way. This is when we first met Ruby. Now, there's no way that Davina McCall, yes, she was in that episode, wouldn't have been able to find a normal human lady with normal human DNA. Are you seriously telling me that Ruby's mum never got blood drawn, never had a blood transfusion, never needed to see a doctor, or that no other cameras saw her in the last 20 years? Come on. Yeah, it's a bit of a cop-out, is this? It actually feels a little insulting. So, Ruby and the Doctor say goodbye. For now. Online spoilers have already revealed that Millie Gibson will be back next season, so we know this isn't really the last we've seen of her. However, the Doctor and Ruby's relationship was so strong right out of the gate this year. They felt like best friends with remarkable speed, and you can feel the sadness when they have to part ways. Ncuti Gatwa does an amazing job of making the Time Lord's ever-present loneliness feel overwhelming during this exchange. You can feel both of the Doctor's hearts breaking as he says goodbye to yet another companion. But this time it's one that's made him rethink his views about family. And speaking of family, you hope that now he's finally going to start looking for his granddaughter. They really need to bring back Carol Ann Ford as Susan Foreman, even if it's just to confirm that yes, she can regenerate and then we have a regeneration scene. Come on, get it done. Everything seems to end well for Ruby, but Mrs. Flood returns one last time to issue an ominous warning to the Doctor. What does it mean? Well, I guess we'll have to wait until the next Christmas special to find out what's going to happen next. Is she the Rani? Is she Clara? Is she Susan? Is she another one of these all-powerful gods? Possible coincidence, the Doctor says that Time Lords regenerate to save themselves or to hide themselves away, and Mrs. Flood specifically says in this episode she's always hiding herself away. Nothing? Maybe? Well, see you at Christmas, I guess. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed this particular video and you found my inane rambling to be fairly amusing and entertaining, then please do take the time to leave a like and a comment. Please also consider sharing this video across your social media, in particular with anything that's related to Doctor Who and classic sci-fi in general. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and do activate the notification bell to stay updated on new uploads. I will have the further parts of our Avengers review series popping up on the channel very soon. But yes, for now, thank you very much for stopping by the Big Daddy D Reviews channel, and we'll catch you again next time.